second panel of the day, Aging with Dignity. With the nation's demography shifting and the population turning silver, the conversation around aging must go beyond longevity to quality of life, mental health, access to care, and emotional well-being. This panel brings together experts who are working at the intersection of psychology, psychiatry, healthcare, and innovation to address exactly that. I'd like to invite the chair to this panel, Dr. Sai Gita Chidru, Assistant Professor, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, to please join us on stage. With over 2 decades of experience, her work spans across aging, youth, gender, and policy research, contributing to the national conversations on aging and social well-being.
Joining her is Dr. Nilay Patel, Representative Medal Life Sciences. He's an interventional cardiologist trained in Italy, known for combining patient-centered cardiac care with holistic approaches like music and mindfulness. Thank you for being on the panel, sir. We are now joined by Dr. Kersi Chavda, a senior psychiatrist with over 35 years of experience, former president of the Bombay Psychiatric Society and consultant at PD Hinduja Hospital, Hinduja Healthcare, and Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital. May I please request you to come up on stage, sir? And finally, may I please call upon stage Dr. Sridhar Vaiteshwaran, Additional Director at Schizophrenia Research Foundation, Chennai, who specializes in dementia and geriatric psychiatry, leading research and clinical services focused on mental health in older adults. Pardon me, but our next panelist is Dr. Rukshida Sayyada, a Mumbai-based psychiatrist and psychotherapist with 25 years of experience, former Bombay Psychiatric Society President and World Health Organization Fellow in psychological rehabilitation. Dr. Sayyada is widely recognized voice in mental health across generations. Could you please join us on stage? Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. So let me first thank you to Goodfellows in collaboration with the week for inviting all of us and having this important discussion. It's a big day today and it has started really well. And in the morning panel, we were discussing about lifelong learning perspective and lifelong learning, that aspect where we are not going to start discussing about issues of older age only when we cross 50, but we need to start the planning much, much ahead of it. And we can see that happening now. And I truly endorse Rohit ji when he said that, youngsters are there and this intergenerational aspects. And I think it's a very, very good beginning. Over the years, we have been inviting young people to our programs. I think this is the first time that is happening in Mumbai where young people are calling us to discuss on these issues. So I think it's a big change, it's a shift, and we are seeing all young people coming into the discourses on older adults. I have been given very important responsibility of policing all the experts here. Please don't mind if I give you clues about, please stop, because they have, chalked out the plan, which is very tight and it's extremely important that all, we look forward to hear all the expert opinion here. Just along with the introduction that they gave, I just wanted to add one thing, that we are one of the universities, the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, who run the program in gerontology. And I'm happy and proud to say that Gargi is our student. And there are a few fellows from here who are also students of this. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. And the title of this panel is Aging with Dignity, Bridging Mental Wellbeing, Healthcare Access and Innovation. I think one of the important critical issues which has been sidelined or you can say overlooked over the years is mental health, mental well-being and emotional well-being. Post-COVID, we have also seen that a lot of mental health issues are on rise. It's not just with a particular older adults population groups. We can see this across all the ages. And the country is now beginning to talk more about mental health issues of young people. However, there is also this cohort of older adults who need attention to the rising psychological, emotional, and mental health issues of loneliness, depression, anxiety maybe. Even when in a room of 10 people where there are family members, we are still alone. Why is this happening? And what have we done as society, as community and people to address these issues? So in this panel, we are going to discuss a couple of issues on the stigmas that is associated with mental health, and especially this cohort where we think that this is very natural, and this happens. It happens when you age, you tend to forget things. It happens that it's very natural, so we should not give attention to this. But it can be detrimental, it can be something else, it can be dementia, it can be Alzheimer's. So what then? Are we prepared to address these issues? Do we understand these issues? Do we understand mental health issues of people? And do we have equipped and trained people to see that? So I'm very happy to have a panel of experts from different fields: geriatric mental health, psychiatry, psychology. This is a very good combination, I would say, to look at the mental health issues, not just from the clinical angle, but also from the structural, community and societal angle. So maybe I'll open up a common question to all of you, is that how do you think society as a whole should address the issue of mental health among senior citizens? Instead of senior citizens, I would like to say it as older adults, because that's the correct terminology. Over to you, sir.
I feel thank you very much for having me here. Goodfellows program. I'm looking at one of the most interesting group of different demography in the audience also. So thank you very much for having me here. I'm an interventional cardiologist. I think the first step in making a change would be acknowledging that there is an issue. Sometimes we just don't acknowledge issues. Things just go by, pass by, without giving enough attention. First, we need to acknowledge, yes, mental health is an issue, irrespective of the age group. But now that we are talking about the older age group, we must know that yes, there can be issues, and there can be issues which were buried in childhood or in youth or various stages of life, but just getting manifested at this point in time. We do not know. I think having a very kind heart, now that I'm also talking to you as an interventional cardiologist, having a very kind heart and acknowledging that, okay, it's part of the whole process, will go a long way in addressing this unmet need. Basically, if we, I think, if we also think in terms of design thinking, which is one of my interesting passions, see, the first thing is addressing or going out there and knowing what is the unmet need. Once we understand the unmet need, what do they want? Are we just putting our thoughts on them about it, or are we really wanting to know what's happening in their mind? If we go a little deeper, spending some time out there, we will know that these issues are real, and once we acknowledge that the issue is real, we will be able to do something about it.
I think we've got to move beyond being simplistic. There's this whole thing of, as the older person, we would expect that his brain shrinks, we would expect that he becomes depressed, we would expect that his cognitive abilities reduce. So step number one, get out of this expectation. It's perfectly okay for us to see that the man who used to be so very good, so very cognitively able, so fast in what he was doing physically, is slowing down. Yes, that might be normal, but it might not be normal. It might be that he's depressed, it might be that he's anxious, it might be that he has a degenerative disorder. If we take things for granted, If you suddenly find that somebody older in your life is slowing down and you say, acha, theek hai, ab buddha ho gaya hai, it's going to be like this, that is where we are losing something that may be reversible. We do have late onset depression. We do have anxieties. Today we live 80s and 90s. If you're a bawa like me, we never die. But unfortunately what happens is that our mental states change. To some extent it's considered normal, but very often it is not normal. And if it is not normal, it is mandatory for us that just like we would take our little kid who has maybe a learning disability and take him to a pediatrician or take him to a learning specialist, just like that, we need to take the adult for a mental checkup. It is mandatory for us not to take things for granted. The younger generation, I was listening to somebody talking about 4 generations in a house. I was listening to somebody saying that women or daughters seem to give more support than men. Once again, with all due respect, extremely simplistic. In my practice, I have wonderful sons, I have horrible daughters. I have wonderful daughters, I have horrible sons. So please, let's not generalize. Just like we are generalizing about the older generation becoming slow because it's normal, let's not generalize anything about their offspring. Let's take it that everybody inherently is a good chap, but he needs to know what the difference is in order to make a difference to the life of his parents. He needs to know that what is happening may not be considered to be a normal continuum of degeneration, but is actually an illness that can be modified, that can be reversed to some extent. Yes, he will slow down. But if he slows down too much, maybe he's got Parkinson's, which you've never seen. Maybe he's got some neurodegenerative thing which needs assessment. Maybe he's got something else happening. You suddenly find that a man who could do engineering projects finds it difficult to count 1 plus 1. And you say, oh, this is normal. No, it's not normal. He may be having the beginnings of Alzheimer's. And there's a huge amount of things now that are happening in that realm. So the most important thing that I think is, let's not take anything for granted.
Thank you. I thank the organizers, the week, and the good fellows for inviting me and having me here. It's a great forum to be, and it's fantastic to listen to all the experts and all the ideas. Now, what should the society do as a whole to address the mental health problems in older adults? I think I would like to structure this in a way of looking at primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. So look at primary prevention, how can we start early? I think we start aging the moment we are born. I don't think aging starts at 60. From the day you're born, you start aging. I think it's important that we look into it very carefully and start inculcating good, healthy habits in young children. I think that's where aging starts. I think education, nutrition, from a very early stage contributes to how we age when we get older. So start early, and again, we have to think about what we can as a society do for the older adults, but also older adults are part of the society. What can they do for themselves? I think there is a lot that they can do for themselves, which again we need to leverage and help them to lead a healthy life. I think we expect every older adult to just sit at home and read religious scripts and just pray. I don't think that's again generalization as Sir was talking about. I think every person is different. Every person has their own unique set of interests and habits, which we need to enhance and facilitate and all that. So I think it's important also to think about how our physical health, mental well-being, and also social well-being, all these things are interlinked and connected. I don't think they operate in isolation. Mental health doesn't exist in a vacuum somewhere else. If you have heart disease, it affects your mental health. You cannot walk as well as you did before. You cannot climb a set of stairs as you did before, which makes you more dependent, which can make you more anxious to climb stairs, which can make you depressed as you go along. If you can't sleep very well due to a heart disease or due to some other problem, obviously it's going to affect your mental well-being and health. So all these things are interlinked. So I think as for a society, if you want to prevent mental health problems, we need to address many of these issues. But addressing once someone develops a mental health problem, the biggest problem or in accessing services is stigma, awareness and lack of, services which are not geared to address the needs of older adults. There are so many examples, people with dementia breaking a bone, getting into a general hospital, and the hospital is not fit to address the problems. People become confused, agitated in a general hospital because the hospitals are designed for 30-year-olds with other problems and they are otherwise healthy and hale. The current way we design our hospitals isn't suitable for older adults with multiple morbidities. So I think it's a way we start thinking about those things in the future, and we need to look at raising awareness, changing some of the way we think about health and older adults, and leveraging existing schemes and programs to deliver better services.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. It's only right that a woman gets the last word, isn't it? Of course, it's not the last word, but for this question. So I always tell people that raising toddlers and raising older adults who may be your parents is an extreme sport. I'm raising older adults, and I'm apparently a reluctant extreme sports enthusiast now. So when I felt so validated listening to the panelists here, because everything that they said resonates with me, not only as a psychiatrist who's working across different age groups, and because I work with the families, but also as, like I said, a person who is living with parents and who's trying to take care of them, even while they are trying to take care of me. When he said that, one of my first TEDx was about depression doesn't discriminate. So when we say things like, बच्चों को depression नहीं होता, या जब बूढ़े हो जाओगे depression होगा ही, that's absolutely a myth. And who more than our senior citizens, our elderly, our our older adults, whichever term they prefer and they want to be identified with is the right term. Because that is a generation now that still has no concept of mental health. They were not raised with any kind of understanding of mental health was or is. So for them, it's a foreign concept. When we start with that and we begin with that, I think for us to maybe be empathetic towards them would be a little easier, because it's very easy for us to be like someone in the earlier panel was saying, to be impatient with them, that they don't learn quickly enough, or and so when I get especially younger people who may have grandparents and they're like, oh, my dada dadi or nana nani or whoever, they don't understand the mental health and they're very dismissive of it. So we want to start with that as well. And and like I said, the panelists here have already shared, we don't want to see them as part of the tapestry. We don't want to see them as part of a household and one room that is designated to them. They're definitely a part of our society, and a society that they've helped build, right? And if we don't have access, they don't have access, it's not okay. So I took an appointment, a follow-up routine appointment for my father on Tuesday, for which I have to go home and then struggle over the next 2 days to convince him to actually go take that appointment, including emotional blackmail. How will it look if a doctor's relative doesn't show for the appointment? You know how upset I get when my patients don't turn up? Trust me, I've used that card and I'm planning to use it again. And so the initial appointment was at around 2:30, and my sister, who usually will accompany my parents for the appointments, that's not because there's feminization of care in my house. It's only very practical logistics, because we happen to be around. If my brother was around, he would be accompanying them. So we divide and conquer. I'll keep track of when what needs to get done, and whoever's around, gets the privilege of doing it. But then she shifted it to the morning session, because the hospital queues in the morning with patients is less. That means we don't have to take a wheelchair for him. That means he doesn't have to feel that even to go to the hospital now I get a wheelchair. Isn't it bad enough that when I go on flights, you all insist I sit on it because the airport is so far? Because the golf cart at the airport is not always easily available for everyone. So simple things like that, if we see them and we see what helps them live their life with dignity. That doesn't take away from their identity, but adds to that. All of that is important. But the first of all, to acknowledge that they are still an integral part of us. They still have a lot to add to our lives, right? That's when we will actually start looking at them, instead of looking at them with reference to context of us. Oh, when is it possible for me to do this? Let me then try to factor them on, right? I'm going to ask them, like he said, see what they can be productive about. What can they do? What do they want to do? Don't just assume they're going to go for satsangs, they're going to be interested in religious activities, they might not want to travel. Let's not assume. Every human being has a need to be seen and to be heard and to be understood. That need doesn't go away just because you have gray in your hair. That exists right till the end. Yeah, that's a problem with me. I go on and on. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Quick takeaways, observation, being alert, rights of senior citizens, older adults is something which is important and that is highlighted. And also that mental health issue cannot be seen in isolation, but there are other factors determining, mental health issues. Thank you for that. And now my question to Dr. Chavda is, let's start at the root. And you see many senior citizens experience shifts in moods and feelings of emptiness, disconnection, loss of meaning and things like that. But we often, as we discussed right now, that we see it as a very natural part of aging. So why can this assumption be problematic? And what can be the preventive steps? How do we recognize this? And what are the early signs of which seniors, family members and all of us can watch for?
Okay. That's actually a very good question, because there is a very thin line between what is considered to be normal and what is considered to be not normal. Just like every chest pain is not necessarily a heart attack, so also every old man who cries, every old man who says, what's the point of life, is not necessarily depressed. But it's probably the intensity of the way he's behaving, the time period in which he's continuing with those same symptoms, and whether he's actually doing things which make one feel that there is an issue. When we talk of depression, it's considered to be the commonest psychiatric issue, illness. At a very conservative estimate, I'd say 1/4 of the population is depressed. So in this hall of about 200 people, at least 50 of you will be depressed. So please come to us after the program. We need to earn our keep. We are not working on Sunday. We need money, etc., etc. The commonest age that it happens is considered to be the adolescent age group. The second most common age at which it happens is considered to be around the age of 40, where we kind of look back at our lives and we say, have I done well, have I not done well, am I good enough, my friends have gone ahead, blah, blah, blah. And the third most common is actually old age. The number of times that in our hospital emergencies, we've had old people being brought in because accidentally on purpose, they have taken 4 times the amount of blood pressure tablets, arthritic tablets, cardiovascular tablets, neurological tablets, and it follows a pattern. And when you get into questioning them, suicide is what we probably call a complication of depression. And the person is not weak, for God's sake. It's not that he's doing so well, everybody loves him, he lives in a lovely house, he goes abroad once a month. All of that is nonsense. If you're depressed, you're depressed. Probably the most important thing that you guys should go taking away from here is that Dr. Google is not a doctor, but to some extent it helps. So if you consistently find mom, dad, brother, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whatever, showing signs and symptoms where there are biological changes also, lack of sleep, too much sleep, not eating, eating too much, severe constipation, not having enough heart rate going up and down, feeling very nervous. If he's having somatic symptoms, my heart is paining, this is paining, and you keep checking him out and you find that there's really nothing wrong physically, and he talks about the uselessness of life. He talks about being alone. Yes, to some extent, you retire, you're no longer an important person. Yeah, the whole world used to bow down towards you, now suddenly people are too busy to meet you. It's a fact of life that people around you are going to pop it. Your friends are going to die. Your wife, your husband might die. Your sisters who are your age will die. You start feeling lonely. You know, when I was preparing for this, because I was just thinking what all I could say, loneliness is probably the biggest illness. I mean, it's not a psychiatric illness per se. But if you're lonely, everything becomes terrible. And if you're lonely, then sometimes you feel that the only way to go ahead is not to go ahead. One way it's changing, we now have DMs, that is, postgrads, where you have a DM in geriatric psychiatry, and I see somebody over here who's the gentleman who's trying to hide away. He's one of our geriatric psychiatrists. Stand up and wave out to them. So he deals only with geriatrics. In my own hospital, we've had somebody who's come down from America, and she started a geriatric clinic. What does that mean? That means even though hospitals may not be too aware of the problem, and even though the bureaucrats who run hospitals sometimes run it with an eye to profits, thank God we are making a difference in the way we deal with adults. Somebody in the previous panel had talked about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and there's absolutely no question about the fact that if we take our geriatric population along with us, there will be less hospitalization, there will be less attempts at killing themselves or whatever else, they will be more productive, and the GDP of our country is going to go up. So adults are not useless. They can still do so much, and people like Sailesh, who's a very dear friend, is doing so much, it's wonderful. Corollary to that, it's not only doctors who make a difference, it's NGOs, it's people who are in the business, it's bankers, and finally it should be all of us, because like it or not like it, we're all going to become Buddha someday.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Haven't I lovely? Yes, I know.
My next question to Sridhar sir is, you're doing a lot of work, a community-based work, and a lot of intervention programs for dementia. Can you describe one or two programs for us to understand what is the kind of work that you're doing to make a difference in the lives of especially rural, I think, low-income background people?
This is a program which we've been doing for more than 5 years now, and we've got an extension of 5 more years. So this is in a rural district in Tamil Nadu, where we have trained community health workers who are recruited from the villages, and they go into the villages, start networking with stakeholders, important people in the villages, and raise awareness about dementia and mental health. I think that's where we start, because without that, everything else fails. So starting with awareness programs, they do street plays, they do traditional folk music and all that to raise awareness, talk to people in the community, and then do a screening using very simple screening questions. They're all trained to do all this. And once people are screened positive, then we have what we call as mobile rural clinics, where we have psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, nurses. We kind of go twice a week to different villages where the screening has happened. We have pulled a group of people, and then we go into the villages and run a clinic. In fact, one of my colleagues is here, Dr. Subodhya. She's a psychiatrist who works in the program, and so we kind of do the screening almost every week. So once that is done, whoever is screened positive and diagnosed with any mental illness. We look at dementia, we look at depression, we also look for substance use problems, anxiety and social isolation and all that. And then we provide interventions for them. So the medication are prescribed, and also we have psychosocial interventions, including cognitive stimulation therapy for people with dementia, interventions to prevent depression for people who are socially isolated, and also to treat depressions. We have some simple exercises. We have a physiotherapist who visits their homes, provides very, very simple, very basic interventions to prevent falls, to help people in their daily routines and all that. And the follow-up is done through telepsychiatry. So we have WhatsApp. The community health workers bear the brunt of the work. They visit each of these individuals' homes who are diagnosed and link with the psychiatrist and the mental health team in the city using video call, and then they are followed up and provided follow-up treatments and interventions. So we have more than 350 people diagnosed with dementia who are not diagnosed early, and the biggest change we have seen is we identify people very early in the villages by going into the community and screening them and diagnosing them. Whereas if you look at our, we have more than 2,000 people with dementia diagnosed in our city OP clinic, and the thing is more than 90% of them come very late, I think, because it's self-seeking, whereas here we go into the community and identify people with dementia. So early identification, we provide a lot of interventions in the community, which has qualitatively, we are collecting data right now and looking at how much their cognitive scores have changed, how much their behavioral scores have changed and all that. And there has been a significant slowing down of deterioration. And the feedback has been very positive. We are, of course, writing this to publish very shortly. So I'll probably stop there and take questions later.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for the amazing work. I think once you have published this, maybe that model can be, spread elsewhere also. Thank you so much for that. And this is to you, ma'am. Like in your practice, I'm sure a lot of people come with different issues of, different age groups. And we have been constantly hearing about the communication gap between these two generations. So what kind of gaps do you actually see, and is there anything that you would like to suggest to build this bridge?
Thank you so much, because communication is key for all human beings and for all relationships. And what we are seeing right now is definitely a wide gap between even vocabulary, right? I need an interpreter when my Gen Z and my Gen Alpha kids in the house are speaking. And so I can imagine, what's happening with my parents. You know how often my father and my mother have said that, तुमको समझ आ रहा है ये लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं? So even a simple thing like that the words are different. And there'll be so many issues, there'll be fights literally in the house, because the way the younger people will speak to them will sound disrespectful to the older people. And they like, this is how you've raised your kids, and then it becomes intergenerational fight because the grandparents are fighting and blaming the parents, and the parents are then upset and offended, and the younger people are like, why am I catching strays? I hang out with a lot of Gen Zs. So those of you who don't understand catching strays, I'll explain it to you later. So those are the communication gaps really. That first, even if you're speaking to each other, are you actually even being able to listen to each other, hear each other? That's if you already have the time to sit together and have a conversation. What do you do to kind of build these gaps, right? Like you were saying, start them young. What I did with my kids in the family, not just my kids, but all the nieces and nephews and all the cousins, for a bedtime story, I would ask them, do you want a family story or do you want a fiction story? Sometimes they would say a family story. And I would tell them, my parents' childhood story that I've heard possibly from my grandparent, just so that the little child identifies or thinks he knows or something about the grandparents. And then when they grow up, now I tell them that, oh, you know what, I told these kids about that incident when you were in school and you did that and you stole all the mangoes from that tree. Why don't you tell them that story? And then there's a sparkle in their eyes that, oh, you remember that story and you've told the kids and the kids know the story, and then there's the whole narration of it. So it's okay if they remember more of the past very, very clearly, but then you can use that to bridge those gaps, right? Because once, if they know stories of human beings, that's how we connect, that's how we bond. And when Dr. Percy Chowdhury was talking about loneliness, it's not that, I mean, we're sitting in a room full of people, but if I don't suppose see somebody there, like, when I came, I saw an old friend and I was like, oh, okay, just waved, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. But that makes us feel connected. That makes us feel less lonely. So I can be surrounded by people, but if my internal mental health and my cognition isn't in the right space, I'm going to feel lonely. And that is going to be one of the major ingredients of my illnesses. So communication gaps also happen because, like I said, we don't have the time and space for each other, but we don't have the. So even if, like I said, if we have the space for it, we might not have the language for it. If we have the patience for it, we might not have the comprehension for it. But definitely when we are talking to each other, it is going to be important for us to have more patience, definitely. Like last month I was telling my dad, you're not eating very well, that's made you a little cranky. Of course, like I was saying, denial is king. He's like, nahi, aisa kuch nahi hai. And of course we do a blood report, and the way they used to check my school reports, I check their blood reports, and I'm very judgy. And I'm like, see, this is going on. But again, you have to speak to them in a way that they will understand, because that's my a goal of communication. So when I understand that, and when I teach the kids that, okay, how do you speak to him so that he understands what you're saying? How do you speak to her that she understands what you're saying? So simple things like that is definitely something we can do to bridge those gaps.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, that's the key. Like, speak the language that they know, they understand, and also empathy and patience is something which is highlighted. So to you, my question is, and this is very interesting question, older adults often fear of invasive surgery and they kind of delay their treatment. So how robotics and minimally invasive technologies help address this issue? And also, how is AI-driven diagnostic is going to shift the whole wait and watch mindset and give patients to seek treatment, timely intervention?
Yeah, so that does get very interesting. I'll be answering these two questions one by one. First question. Honestly, the fear of invasive surgery is very real, okay, and it's very human also. I mean, we all have had grandparents or parents, looking at the audience I can make, they are senior citizens and have undergone major invasive surgeries. See, the question is, their fear is very real because their questions run different in the mind. Their questions on, will I wake up from the surgery or not? Even if I wake up, will I be independent enough or not? Or am I going to lose my autonomy? किसी को परेशान तो नहीं करूँगा ना मैं? These are the major concerns about where patients come from. So that's their space from which they come from. The fear is it's actually about dignity also. Whether will I be able to live a very dignified life once I undergo this invasive procedure? So from not waking up to waking up, say, paralyzed, or waking up not normal is very real. And it's always hovering on the minds of the patient and the families also. That's where minimally invasive techniques, which have come up in all fields, including cardiology, they have come forth, and in a very big way. I'll tell you why. Because, say for example, if I tell you that a valvular surgery, once considered to be the only option was to open the chest up, whether you are 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85. The only option that you have was to open the chest. But now if I tell you that we can go through the groin, and replace your entire valve, and you can walk back home in 2 days. The procedure is going to be in, probably you're going to be awake and talking to me while the procedure is happening. That itself brings peace to begin with. It's very peaceful to know that, okay, I'll be probably talking with the doctor while on the table. Or maybe just I'll be made to sleep, not even intubate on a ventilator. You know, it is very peaceful, even for doctors. Trust me. We do not want some patient to not wake up from surgery. Everyone wants the best for their patients. All doctors' intentions are the best for their patients, trust me. So when it comes to minimally invasive, it's changing the entire scenario completely. And as the population is aging, age-related valvular heart diseases have, so traditionally CABG, that is open heart surgery for bypass grafts, was done. Then came stents, which was minimally invasive. Now the scenario is changing even more when you are treating a valvular heart disease just through the groin. Patient is awake, almost awake. I can discharge the patient in 3 days time. Imagine that from a rehab period of 7 days in hospital, 1 month of rehab, and 3 months of complete well-being. That's a long period, 3 months, 3 days. That puts smile on so many faces, from the relatives to the patients to the doctors. So it is definitely changing. Minimally invasive and robotics in interventional cardiology, we don't use robotics as yet. That will change the scenario too. The second question is about the AI. So why only diagnostics? I think we can use AI in different ways. It's a very helpful assistant. It may not, we shouldn't give it so much of importance as to make it our master, but we can use it, utilize it as a very important assistant. Because we can pick up certain patterns. So AI is pattern recognition. Like a large data is fed into something, and then it recognizes patterns and diagnoses things early. So you can diagnose things early, you can generate AI treatment protocols, which are best in the world, or standard of care protocols. All of these can be integrated in better outcomes for all groups of patients, and geriatric patients even more, because the number of factors that you put inside, it will consider all of them and give you, say, a risk stratification model. It will give more control to the patient. So as minimally invasive treatments eliminates fear, AI gives back control to the patient. Why? Because it's predictable. It predicts, say, your risk at 1 year, your risks at 2 years. People tend to become more aware about their health when such early diagnostics or early recognition of disease patterns are, so the ball is put in the court of the patient then. So now you know what to do. So then patients start thinking, they start thinking about themselves. They start thinking, what do I need to do to make myself more independent, more in control? So both of them are definitely going to change the game. They're already changing. So when we say we are looking at future, no, I think we are living the future right now. And it's not, I mean, earlier there was a time gap or a divide between the Western world and India. But now we have indigenous technologies which make valves, which make non-invasive treatments possible here, right here in India. And it's being made more and more accessible. What more do we want? So we are, as far as timeline is concerned, we are at par with the Western world in terms of treatment accessibility. In fact, sometimes we are better. Because of our aging population, we will be able to give a lot back to our aging population than what we were traditionally. Because earlier, the patients would rather think, I would rather stay with the disease than face the fear of not waking up from a surgery. We don't have that anymore. We can confidently say, at even 80, you have treated patients with minimally invasive treatments at the age of 85, at the age of 90 sometimes, when the patient's relatives are ready to go for the treatment. And why not? Why not? If the patient is ready, why not? Earlier, we used to think, okay, abhi ho gaya hai, inko shanti se jaane dijiye. है ना, that's how the counseling used to begin. But अभी शांति से नहीं जाने देना है उनको. They are all happy. There are people who are wanting to have their jog in the morning. Let them have a jog at 85. No problem at all. We'll deal with the later problems later on. But now, in this moment, we have options available. We must exercise those options and give them. Then the choice remains with the patients and their relatives. That's fine. But as caregivers, as doctors, or as people who are wanting to make a change and a difference, we must give options and then let them decide what they want. Because we are in a position to say we can make a difference with all the minimally invasive treatments available today. Thank you.
Thank you, very interesting, and thank you for that information, sir. So it's only 2 minutes now for us to end this panel discussion. Maybe we can end with, say, just half a minute to, we would like to understand from you what is that one thing, either attitudinal or mindset or any policy or practice change that you would like to bring in so that it makes a huge difference to the older population in the contemporary times. Whoever wants to start. Yes, societal level, the ecosystem that we are in, caregiving.
Right. I think it's a very tough question to answer. I think the change has to happen at multiple levels, and I don't think there can be a one, factor that can contribute. But I think the societal attitude towards aging, if that changes, I think that can be the base, the fundamental foundation from where everything else, the policy, the structure, everything can come after that.
Totally agree with you.
Yeah, Dr. Kasi Chawla is not going to let me have the last word this day. Like he said, it has to be at multiple levels, it has to be multiple disciplinary. But if I'm going to tell you that all of y'all here, right, if y'all figure out 2 things that y'all can start doing today for yourself so that when you grow older, whatever age that you are, when you grow up, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? So figure out 2 things, right? One, something that you want to change physically. Maybe you sleep well, exercise well, eat well. And one thing that might help you with your neuroplasticity of your brain. What do? My mom will not let a puzzle go without trying to solve it. She likes certain arts and crafts. So bring about these 2 changes. And, the change will start from here, from within. So when you're doing this, like I said, all of y'all just figure out 2 things that you're going to do from today so that when you decide who you want to be as an older adult, as a golden citizen, you're going to be healthier, happier, and not feel as if you're a burden to someone, and help the young people to take care of you. I tell my parents all the time, if you don't tell me on time, you make my life more difficult. You love me, make it easier. I'm still expecting you to take care of me, so tell me faster if you're not feeling well, right? So simple things like that. So change begins with us.
Thank you so much.
So I think we must also change the nomenclature. We shouldn't call 70-year-old old. We should call 70 years young. Because when we say, it all begins in the mind, because I have had 75-year-old who are running marathons. Actually, post-bypass surgery, they are running marathons. Oh, yeah. Wow, a round of applause for her, because she's a marathoner. So I won't call her an 80-year-old old auntie. I would call her an 80-year-old young. Yeah, a very young. So we must change the nomenclature. Correct.
Absolutely agree with her that no, you want to celebrate whatever age you are. If I'm young, I'm young. If I'm old. There's no ageism. Absolutely. Embrace the age that we are.
Okay.
Yeah. And
please continue.
And also, I think we must change, should begin at home. I think each one of us, if we take care of our old people around us, whether it is the sabji wala or the rickshaw wala, just saying a hi to him, will make a little bit of a difference that we can. It necessarily need not be great missions of life, small steps, each fish at a time. That story that we have. That this fish your person was throwing in the back in the sea again, and someone said you will not be able to take care of all the fishes on the beach, but then that is one difference to that fish that you threw in the ocean back. So that's what my point is.
Thank you.
Sir.
So now the best for the last. Like I said before, I think the most important thing is not to take anything for granted. To go and believe that the older person is an important member of society. He's not a has-been. Unfortunately, a lot of us look at them like, abhi kya karega, bahut ho gaya, now he should retire.
Mindset.
The mindset. I think it's also extremely important for the government to give a little more importance to mental health. Anyway, our health budgets are getting less and less. Infrastructure is increasing, which is wonderful, but the infrastructure is nothing if the persons using the infrastructure are not looked after. And as a corollary to the physical health, which is so very important, I mean, the government is looking after cholera, and we don't have smallpox anymore, and we don't have, I mean, we are doing fantastic work in tuberculosis, and so on, which is wonderful. I think now we have to pay a little more attention also to mental health, and a little more importance to the fact that if, like I keep telling people, if we want India to be a developed country, it has to look after everybody, which includes its most vulnerable population. And unfortunately, the most vulnerable population, technically over a period of time, is the older generation. I also believe, because I'm sick and tired of seeing elder abuse. You know, at one time my stomach would get wrenched when I would deal with the sexual abuse of kids. It's horrible. I've been in the field 40 years and I still feel like throwing up. And now we've got old person abuse. A grandparent, a father, a mother, being pulled, being pushed. May not always be physical, can also be emotional. Oh, just shut up, yeah. You don't know anything. Somehow, some kind of cognizance, some kind of, I don't know, legal thing, but then most parents will not legally proceed against their own kids, needs to be brought in. Maybe it should start from education itself, where our textbooks, in addition to talking about the judiciary which is corrupt, which apparently they are not, and which has been changed now, should also talk about the fact that it's so extremely important for everybody to look after everybody else.
Thank you, sir. It was a very wonderful discussion, a lot of insights, a lot of information that we can take away from this panel discussion. I formally close this panel discussion and would like to open the floor for question and answers.
Somebody there. You can't see it.
Dr. Prem, yes. So please be brief while you are asking questions and also while answering. We have 7 minutes to wind this up.
So I'm Dr. Prem, so I'm a geriatrician and I represent the Wisdom Club here as well. So I think one of the most important questions which we all, taking care of older adults, always feel is how do we take care of the caregiver? Because there is always somebody behind every older adult, and it doesn't need to be only a young person or an old person. There is always, and in the same pitch, of course, there is also a professional caregiver. So you need to take care of the professional caregiver as well. So your views on that?
So as a current caregiver, both on a personal level and a professional level, caregiver burden is a definite thing, right? And my mom taught me that if she doesn't take care of herself and goes to the doctor immediately when she has a fever, she can't take care of the kids. So I have learned from that, right? So when I do that, so if I have, let's say, a short period of time for my consultation, I will speak to the person, but I'll also speak to the caregiver, because without that caregiver, my patient is not getting better. The outcomes are not very nice. So you definitely have to have a sustainable game plan, right? Have a sustainable life. What is easy for you to do? And you have to have a tree of people whom you can reach out to for whatever. I'm the queen of delegation. That's all. That's how I run my life. And like I said, I'll make an appointment. My sister will go take the appointment. My brother will do something else. That's how we will not feel burdened by our, in our lives, and that will give my parents dignity. That, oh, none of us are getting burdened. We're all doing things when we can. So they can absolutely call us up and say that, oh, I want this. Just last month, I had a going to go in and go out Bangalore trip, and I was leaving, and my mom's like, oh, you're going to Bangalore, buy me a sari. And I'm like, oh, I really didn't have time to do that, but of course I did, and then I ended up buying 3 saris. So the caregivers is somebody that we all need to look at, right? Like initially when I first started in my career, I will tell you, I would refuse geriatric patients because I'm like, no, I can't, I don't have enough hope, I don't have enough, enough patience for that, because I'll feel so sad that I'm not being able to help them beyond a certain point, right? And that's why, when Dr. Kirsi Chavda said there's a huge amount of development in psychiatric and neuropsychiatric care of people, of older adult. That's why now I'm feeling so much more happier, confident about taking care of people around me. I'm also like the point person. I'm lucky enough to continue to live in a place where I almost grew up from a young age. So all my friends are here and there all over the place. I'm the only one. So I'll run with my BP machine and my glucose machine to see whichever uncle or auntie is not doing well and doing all of that. So I'm so happy and I'm blessed that I can do that. I can be that. So when the team, the professional as well as the personal, feels grateful that we are being able to do that. We are being able to bring value to our lives by looking at them as valuable people and contributors to our life. I think that's when the emotional burden and the emotional labor goes down. The physical labor is going to exist, but it's going to be more burdensome and the hardships are going to feel more real if you're not in a good headspace. So I will take a break. I will go on a chutti. I will just write in the family group, I am not in town from this day to this day. I'm not even going to ask my sister or my brother or my niece or my nephew, can you come? No. It's not only my responsibility. I'm letting you know I'm not available. Whoever is volunteering, whoever is doing whatever, come and do this. So again, nobody feels obliged to anybody. I don't resent anybody else in my family. They don't resent me. And that's how we take care of ourselves, and all of us remain healthy during this journey called life.
One sec, just before that, I'm going to talk about something which I think will make a difference. I never want to be on a ventilator when I'm an old person. I think it's horrible. I don't want my son to decide at that time, supposing I don't have the cognitive abilities, to tell the person that I don't want to be on it. Hinduja Hospital at Mahim has started something called Living Will. It's probably the only hospital so far, I'm sure everybody will take over, where today, while I'm cognitively somewhat okay, I can make a statement which is registered, etc., saying that I have decided that I don't want more than X amount of treatment if, while I'm old, I'll end up needing so much more treatment. And that has to be validated, and that has to be accepted by everybody. I think if we do that, then the caregivers, who will be our brother, mother, father, and children, whatever, not mother, but our children, to some extent, will not feel guilt if they don't push and push and push and push in order to get me to become okay. I think that's an extremely important aspect. It's very difficult. I know when my mum was about to die, horrible, she was 86. I still think about it. I still feel horrible about it. She had been I had taken her to the hospital thrice. She came back again, wanted to take her again. And then I spoke to my physician, my batchmate who's head of department there, etc. And he told me, Kaisi, let her go. She can't see properly, she's asthmatic, she can hardly hear, she's got macular degeneration. What the hell are you doing? And I let her go. She died in 3 days. And she at that time kept telling me, no hospital, no hospital. And she knew I wouldn't listen. But I listened to my physician. Today, if I had done a similar thing, if I do a similar thing, my son doesn't have to take that decision. I, as a doctor, still feel so guilty. I can just imagine how guilty a caring kid would feel. Let's make it easier for our children.
Thank you so much. We need to end here, but ma'am has a question or a comment. Last.
So, Percy, whatever you said is advanced medical directives. That has become very common, and we can make more campaign on it, that you can decide. That is called living will, which I mentioned in my panel also. One thing is that when we are talking about mental well, senior citizens are not accepting they are with dementia. And when we hold conferences on mental health, in Marathi I said, Vedyacha doctor. So how we can, change that? The moment mental word comes, now they feel that something mentally wrong with us. So can we change this? Vedyacha doctor, आम्हाला काही झालं नाहीये. And they don't accept they are suffering from dementia. It's the family's role that they have to, family is also not accepting. No, nothing is wrong with my parents. So how to change this kind of a mindset and see that everybody is mental, and you rightly said, because of so many medicines and all that, it is age-related disease which we have to accept it and treat it on time.
See, then he'll tell me I talk too much when he's the one prompting me to do this. Thank you so much for that question, because myths and misinformation about psychiatry, psychiatric care, mental health is still very, very pervasive and very deep-rooted to this day. But a lot of older people are absolutely okay when you ask them, Smaran Shakti kashi hai? How is your memory? How's your mental memory power? And they're okay to talk about that, right? So if we only talk about manat kasa vattah tumhala, sometimes they might hesitate, but if you ask them, tartari vattete ka angat, how do you feel in your body? Do you feel rested when you wake up? Oh, that's so great. All of that. And when we are looking at geriatric, when we have a geriatric kind of like a clinic, we have again multidisciplinary people. We have internal medicine people, cardiologists, we have psychiatrists, sometimes neurologists also appear and are mildly useful. So when there is kind of like this collective care, then the stigma also goes down. And then they're more and more open to speaking about what needs to be done. I'll share a personal story where this friend of mine who's a gynecologist, her father was a renowned surgeon, had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. For whatever reasons, the neurologist said something, they understood something, and there was no treatment or very, very minimal treatment for 2 years. And for 2 years, this person became aphasic. Aphasia is when you don't have words, like you know what you want to say, but you forget those words and you can't say them. And, she just came one day. I said, let's just please start this one tablet. Just one tablet, let's just start that. And 2 months down the line, in the middle of the night, she calls me, 12 o'clock in the night. She's like, Rukshida, he took my name for the first time in 2 years. I cannot tell you how grateful I am. So, we definitely have to diagnose early, intervene early, so that the quality of life can be preserved. We don't, if somebody has been diagnosed with, let's say, hypertension or diabetes, because there's no cure for it, we don't stop giving treatment. So the same way, just because we don't have a cure for dementia, we shouldn't withhold treatment. And that's what is important, that, treatment is going to make it better instead of making it worse. So for however long they are, and I tell it straightforward to the caregiver, you want to make it easy for you to take care of the person with dementia, ma'am, give that treatment.
Yeah. You want to
I just
say
probably
something?
add just a little bit. I think that's a wonderful point. I think what we need to emphasize is that traditionally what dementia was thought of as an untreatable condition where people just slide away into a bottom. But with emerging treatments, there are disease-modifying treatments which are coming. If you identify early, we can definitely slow down the disease progression, and there can be positive outcomes. Even without that, we are seeing a huge impact in terms of their quality of life, preventing problems. Many people with dementia actually present to a psychiatrist or to a hospital with an emotional or behavioral change. I think that can be prevented if you identify early and treat early.
Thank you. So, ma'am, it's a continuous work. Education awareness is going to make that difference. It's a slow change, but it will definitely happen. And organizations like us, academia, senior citizens organizations, all of us are working towards it to address the stigma of mental health. Thank you so much, panel members, and thank you for having us here.
Thank you all. Thank you all for such a eye-opening discussion. To express our gratitude, I would like to call upon Gargi Sandhu, co-founder, Goodfellows India, to present the memento to our panelists.